please put your hand together and help me give a warm welcome to Charlie Angus.
Thank you. Wow, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I am honored to be here tonight. I am so excited to be here. C'était très important pour notre équipe de lancer la campagne de résistance et Meidas Canada tournée dans le berceau de Confederation. Oui. Et d'être ici, dans cette beau théâtre, un symbole de la fierté, l'identité de la communauté acadienne. So pour ça, je vous remercie, mes amis. So, I want a simple show of hands. Did anyone here come here tonight to have me talk about how we're going to get a better tariff rate on soybeans? Or did you come here because you are watching people being kidnapped off the streets on the largest unguarded border in the world, and you're watching the disintegration of the rule of law next door, and you are watching the rise of gangster violence, whether it's the attacks in Ukraine, the mass starvation in Gaza, or now Donald Trump bragging that he's sending the army against his own people in Chicago. Is that why you're here? Yes. So tonight, we're going to talk about where we're at as a nation. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We are coming into the storm. And we're going to talk about what that storm may look like. But I want to assure you we are going to get through that storm because it's who we are as a nation. And as long as we know what's coming, there is nothing they can do to defeat us. And that's what we not only have to tell ourselves every morning when you wake up and you grab your phone, you can't even open your eyes, and you think, what did that fool do last night? You're not going to be doom scrolling anymore. You're going to be waking up every morning and saying, what do I need to do to push this back? Because 2025 is the year that we take the fight from resistance to offensive, where we take the fight back for democracy and for values and for human rights and for what it means to be Canadian. So yes, we are super excited. We launched the Meidas Canada Network on Monday. And we are getting support. Every day, we are overwhelmed on my little team. People from Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, Sweden, Germany, France, Latvia, Finland, Norway, South Africa, Brazil, Ecuador, and every state in the Union. Now, my wife said my ego is pretty well contained. She said it's self-circulating. But I'm not all that confident that they're following what we're doing here because they think that I'm a funny guy. They're following what we're doing in Canada because we are the front line in the resistance and the front line in the defense of democracy. That's how the world sees us. And I want to share that story with you because I don't hear that on our mainstream media. And I'm not blaming our mainstream media, but we live in a world of he said, she said. Well, what does it really mean? That's not the tools you need when you fight extremism. There's no he said, she said in fighting extremism. There's the rule of law and democracy, and there's the other side. And we know what that is because we come from a long, long, long line of fascist fighters. And we're being called on that spirit again. And I want to say, and when Ben Meidas and the Meidas Touch crew were really pushing us to get this thing off the ground, because they said we need to have a global conversation. We need to make this bigger than what we're fighting in our own backyard. And they were saying it's really important for Canadians and your voice to help other countries see this. This isn't that we're bragging here, but we're holding the line right now. And it's a fragile line. And that line is going to be tested. We're going to talk about that. But when we decided to launch the Meidas Canada Resistance Tour, it seemed so natural to launch it here in Prince Edward Island. Well, first off, man, those people in North Rustico wouldn't let us go. Man, they twisted our arms. Rosie and Mike, who were organizers, they proposed marriage in front of me to make it happen. I'm not kidding, they did. But we thought, to be here in the birthplace of Confederation sends a message. And you think that, I mentioned the birthplace of Confederation the other day, and someone wrote online, said, well, it wasn't 1867, it was 1864, get your facts right. And I was like, yeah, that's even more important. Because in 1864, the United States was caught up in another civil war. And America's in a civil war now. And in 1864, there were a bunch of little outposts that weren't part of what was happening in the United States with their violence and their mass killings and their slavery and their hierarchies. And all these little places that weren't part of the United States had to make a decision. Were they going to stick together and build something new? Or were they going to be slowly devoured into the violence of the United States? And so they came to Charlottetown. And what's really incredible about this story is that being real Canadians, they didn't necessarily like each other. I mean, nobody's got more of a chip on their shoulder than Canadians when it comes to, well, they were getting more than we were getting. And, if we sign Confederation, well, where's the main port going to be? I want to know that. And God, we're not letting those buggers from Upper Canada and Lower Canada get in either. But then Upper Canada and Lower Canada, known as the Canadians, showed up because they were like, okay, we've got to figure this out. So the story of Confederation, as it was told to be by my grade 10 teacher, was that you had a whole bunch of people who didn't necessarily like each other, who had a whole bunch of deep divisions. English versus French, orange versus green, East versus Quebec versus Ontario. And they had to make a decision. Were they going to learn to live together in peace and build a nation, or were they going to fall apart? And that is the birth of Confederation. That's the thing to remember. So now, today, we are in another time of an American Civil War. And the question that we are being confronted with is, are we going to be sucked into the violence? And are we going to break apart? Or are we going to revigorate this notion of Canada? A notion of Canada that has made a lot of mistakes and done a lot of wrong things. But I think what makes Canada different is that we're learning to recognize when we've made mistakes, we can improve. When we recognize that in that original Charlottetown meeting, they didn't invite any of the First Nation leaders to come. But if we're going to be forward in this century, we're going to do this together. And it's not just about surviving Trump and surviving Trump's trade wars and all the threats that he's making. We have to make a decision if we are going to be a nation that could be a light unto others in a time of darkness. And my question to you, Prince Edward Island, birthplace of Confederation, are you up for the task of making sure that we are that light in these dark times? That's the question. So I'm going to talk a bit about the darkness, but I also want to talk about what's really inspired me. People keep saying, oh, you must be so tired, you never stop. I'm not stopping because I am as terrified as you are of what happens if we stay still. So I put it to you, my friends, anyone who thinks that we're going to settle a trade deal with a man who's willing to brag about using the Department of War against his own people, they're going to be coming for us. We know that. And the reason that they were going to come for us is because it's gangster ideology. They thought we were pushovers. They thought that we would bend and break. I mean, what's easier to push around than a Canadian, right? Well, until we're not. And then they were shocked. And then they were angry. And we're not going to bend or break. And we saw something in each other that was something none of us, I think, expected. It's that Juno Beach gene that's in us. That as soon as they started threatening us, you and you and you said, to hell with that. I will never buy any more lettuce. I don't care that we were going to go to Arizona with all our friends from our high school reunion and we'd rented the damn condo. We're going to call that condo development and say, you can keep your deposit. You'll never get another dime from us. The boycott is one of the most extraordinary political movements in recent history. $29 billion hit to the American economy from Canadians saying we aren't spending money in travel. $29 billion. Yeah. That over 75% of Canadians not only are not buying American products, they're insisting the products be taken off the shelves. That is the boycott. And the reason the boycott matters so much, and the reason the rest of the world is watching us, is because Donald Trump can threaten our leaders. He can put more tariffs on. He can do what he thinks is in the long game. Was he's promised he was going to break us economically. But he can't break you. He can't make you spend a dime. And when you are dealing with a nation that is under a man who's willing to use the army against his own armed civilians, the number one tool we have is the unrelenting economic pressure of resistance. That is a powerful tool. So much so that we got all the governors from the Eastern Seaboard coming up and saying, Canada, we love you. Come back. Visit us. Yeah? I want to hear these governors say, Canada, we agree with you that it's wrong to arrest people and kidnap them and put them in cages and brag about feeding them to alligators. And I get messages every day from across the United States, and what amazes me, I get messages from Florida, because number one hit of all the states, Ron DeSantis, Florida's taken the biggest hit. Oh, that feels so good. So good. And people from Florida write to me and say, tell the people to keep going. We need to break them economically because they will never, ever restore the rule of law without that relentless economic pressure. And you are bringing that economic pressure. And that is so important to bring. So I want to thank you for that. And I'm here to say that it's going to be little things like this that keep us going. Because that's what we do. You know, the Americans went to war and they were the greatest generation. They were the Band of Brothers. As a kid, we all grew up on American war stories, Guadalcanal and Battle of the Bulge. I knew them all. All my uncles were in the Cape Breton Highlanders. I don't know a thing about what they did. Because when they came home, they didn't talk about it. And you know, the other day, trying to write my Substack resistance articles, which I write an essay a day, I thought I got to sound a little smart about my family because they're going to ask me, why don't you know this? So I typed in the name of my uncle Gordon McNeil, because he was the head honcho of the clan. And a YouTube video showed up. And it was the village of Iona, September 4th, 1939. The morning after Hitler invaded Poland. And there's my Uncle Gordon. He'd put on his World War I uniform, and he's walking through the village, calling the young men, telling them it was time to go. And this video, they're my family. I never knew this because nobody talked about it. And they all went. And in this video, you see them going down. They hadn't even declared war yet. And we were already going to fight, to defend people we didn't know. And none of my uncles ever came back okay. They were all messed up, and they all died young. So when I think of that, I think it's our job to make sure the young people don't have to do what they had to do. That's the fight. So that's why I don't stop day after day, because I keep thinking about the graveyards that I saw all through Italy and all through France. And when I see those young names, I think of our kids. And they shouldn't have to do this. And some people say to me, why don't you have more young people at your rallies? And I said, they didn't cause this problem, we did. It's our job so that they can just go and have a life, because they live enough stress. So I'm asking you to be part of that resistance, to call it for what it is. This is the age of gangster fascism, and we're going to defeat it. And we're going to defeat it by being strong. And we're going to defeat it by holding to our values and not giving in to hate. Because the storm is coming. So you may not think you're doing much, but you're doing a lot by recognizing what the threat is, not being fooled, knowing that there's no way that this is just simply going to go away. Last night in Rustico, the women were wearing the shirts that said, "Is he dead yet?" You know what? That might not change anything either. The only thing that's going to change it is people taking back democracy. And it's got to be done at the local level. So I'm going to be leaving Prince Edward Island, and you're staying, which is, you're much smarter than me. You build your democracy here. You build your inclusion here. You build your respect here. And you become a model. And we build this across the country. This is why we're touring across the country. I don't got any great plans. I just don't know what else to do. But everywhere I go, I come out feeling we're better off than I thought we were. And every day that I think I'm afraid, I meet people who are doing it. The zeros, the ones, and the twos. They're doing it in small ways, but those small ways add up. And it's freaking those mega hate incels out. It's freaking them out. They don't want to believe us. Because we come from the land of the ice and snow. We come from hard work. We come from adversity. And none of us are fool enough, like those guys down there who think, whoa, I got a gun and I got this and I got that. All we got are neighbors, right? And if you don't have a neighbor, good luck living in the land of the ice and snow. But if you've got neighbors, doesn't matter what language they speak or where they came from originally, they will have your back. And we need to have each other's back right now. And if we have each other's back, there is nothing they can do. So am I optimistic? I said no. I think we're coming into the storm. But am I hopeful? I'm not only hopeful, I'm pretty feeling confident. Because you know what? I didn't say the F word. I've gotten better. I'll have to get back to Northern Ontario to do the next talk. I'm feeling pretty confident because you know what? They're a nation that's divided and are tearing each other apart. And we're unified. It's a fragile line, but as long as we stay unified, I'd be in a trench with Canadians any day of the week because we know what's at stake. and we never stop until the job's done. That's who we are. Because we are a nation that is true, north, strong, and free. And we will always be true, north, strong, and free. And they will never, ever, ever take that away from us. They will never take our country. They will never make us bow down and kiss any gangster's ring, whether it's Vladimir Putin or whether it's Trump or any of the other MAGA incel creeps. Because we are a nation that stands for values. So thank you, my friends. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Here, let me see that. Yes. We will never, ever, ever give this up. Not to anybody. Never, 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 never. This is who we are. It's in our soul. It's in our DNA. And we represent people who put their lives on the line to free others. And we will free others by standing the line today. So thank you, my friends. Thank you so much. Thank you.